Assalamu alaikum to all of my students. Hope you all are fine. Today I am going to take two important concepts. When there is excess supply in the economy, how to reach or how to correct aggregate supply in the economy, or when there is a deficit supply, how to correct that deficit supply situation in the economy. Generally, when excess supply, meaning when aggregate supply is greater than aggregate demand, or aggregate supply is less than aggregate demand, these are two critical situations happening in an economy. As just in previous lecture, I discussed when aggregate supply is equal to aggregate demand, when equilibrium happens in an economy, aggregate supply is equal to aggregate demand. When excess supply is more than aggregate demand, how to reach this position? When aggregate supply is in a deficit supply, when aggregate supply is less than aggregate demand, how to reach equilibrium in the state of rest? This we call state of rest equilibrium or state of rest. How to reach this position, this point when there is excess supply in the economy. I will try to show this with the help of schedule so that you can easily understand what happens in an economy. For example, this is price, this is quantity supply, this is quantity demand. For example, price will 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Quantity supply 50, 40, 30, 20, 10. This will 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. This is Y, this is 0, this is X, this is price. This is quantity, demand and supply. If we observe or if we make analysis of this table, the schedule, this shows us this is a situation where aggregate demand is equal to aggregate supply, or aggregate supply is equal to aggregate demand. Meaning this is equilibrium situation. As aggregate supply is 30, aggregate demand is 30. Meaning this situation happens in the economy. But when this situation happens in an economy, this first, so I will write this second as this first equilibrium. Equilibrium is already happening in the economy. In previous lecture, I discussed this. Now, when this situation happens, as quantity demand is 10, quantity supply is 50, quantity demand is 20, quantity supply is 40. Meaning this shows us excess supply prevalent in an economy, which I show aggregate supply is greater than aggregate demand. In this condition of excess supply. Now, to correct excess supply, to reach equilibrium point, to correct excess supply, means when aggregate supply is greater than aggregate demand, what need to be done? Definitely, producer has to cut down its production. I will write, producer has to cut down his production. Producer has to cut down his production. Why? As when he will cut down his production, producing goods and services, definitely quantity supply will fall 50 to 40. As quantity demand increases 10, 20. As there is a positive relationship between price and quantity supply. When price will fall, quantity supply will fall. When producing goods and services fall, this will continue to happen till equilibrium position is 30, 30. As quantity supply will fall due to fall in price, as producing goods and services fall. When producer will cut down his production. This will continue to happen till this situation is reached. Quantity supply is equal to quantity demand. Similar, I will show this. For example, this is P, this is Q, this is demand, this is supply, this is DD, this is supply. Means this is 30 P, this is Q, hello, this is Q. Means this is a situation point of equilibrium, as I am showing, point of equilibrium, where quantity supply is equal to quantity demand, quantity supply is equal to quantity demand, quantity supply is equal to quantity demand. Means when excess supply, this is excess supply for P1, this excess supply situation, this, as still this here is quantity supply equal to quantity demand, but this above this, as price line is touching y-axis, this leads to excess supply. You need to correct excess supply. Producer tries to cut down his production. When he will cut down his production, he will only cut down his production when price falls. When price falls 5 to 4. When price falls, means this is P, this is P2. When price will fall, definitely this will lead to price fall. This will lead to a reduction as supply will reduce. As there is a positive relation. When price fall, quantity supply will fall. When price fall, quantity supply will fall. This will lead to reduction in quantity supply. This will lead to reach equilibrium point. Means when production will producing goods and services will fall, this will reach this point. This we call equilibrium point. Similarly, when price falls, there's a negative relation between quantity demand. When price falls, quantity demand will increase. When increase in quantity demand will lead to excess in quantity demand. As when price falls, this will lead to excess demand. This will lead to excess demand. This is the situation of excess demand. This is excess demand. This is excess supply situation. Excess supply situation. To correct this excess situation, excess demand situation, definitely price should rise. When price rises, this will lead to a rise in supply. As we know, there is a positive relation between supply and price. When price increase from 1 to 2, quantity supply increase 10 to 20, this will lead to a reduce in quantity demand 5 to 40. This will, when price will increase, quantity supply increase, this will reduce quantity demand 50 to 40. Means in second situation, to correct this second situation, excess supply is less than aggregate demand. Definitely, producer has to increase producing goods and services. Increase production. Producer has to increase production of goods and services. As here is here's excess demand. Means he has to increase supply. Supply means increase in goods and services. Producing goods and services should be increased. When that will increase, means supply of goods and should be more, so that this excess demand will be corrected. Means when increase in price will lead to increase in supply, when producing more goods and services, definitely this will lead to this will lead to correct excess demand situation, as demand will fall 50, 40 continuously till 30. These are the two extreme situations. Means when this excess supply situation, this excess demand situation. To correct excess supply situation, price should be fall. When price fall, this will lead to cut down of production. Supply will be reduced. When supply will reduce, definitely as price falls, supply fall. There is a positive relation price and supply. When price will fall, definitely supply will fall. When producing goods and services fall, producer will cut down his production as price falls. Definitely this will reach this situation. Similarly, when this excess demand situation happens below excess demand, definitely there's an inverse situation between price and quantity demand. When there's excess demand, definitely price should be increased. It will rise upwards. Price will increase, definitely this will reduce quantity demand as there's an inverse way. Quantity demand will until will reach this. Means produce will produce more goods and services so to correct this excess demand. Demand is more than goods and services produced supply. I think it is enough for today. If you have any doubt related to this concept, you can message or comment me. I will try my level best to further elaborate it to clear the doubt. Hope for the best. Take care. Thanks. Have a nice day.